our habitual thought patterns, where we wander to, is usually fear-based. And it keeps a certain mood going in our heart and our body. From Buddhist psychology, whatever you frequently think and ponder upon, that will become the inclination of your mind. And it affects your heart and your feelings. Okay, let's practice a little. We'll do a short meditation together that really can help us free up our body, our minds, our hearts. And because this is brief, I invite you to revisit it on your own and spend more time with the different pieces of it. Let it become your experiment. And we begin just finding your way of coming into stillness and taking a few full breaths. You might reflect, what is a limiting belief about yourself that you get stuck in? It may be one of the core ones, I'm unlovable or unworthy. I'll never have an intimate relationship. I'll never be happy. I'll never be successful. I'm bad at everything I do. But some belief about yourself that's painful. And as you consider this, consider a situation that brings it up. Let this situation be close in. Be aware of the thoughts and feelings. And begin by asking yourself again, well, what am I really believing here? What am I believing? And just sense the deepest thing you're aware of that this belief roots down into. What are you believing about yourself or your world or what's possible? And then to ask yourself, is it true? Is this belief true? Am I sure this is true? And just noticing what happens. And let yourself now sense the worst part of this belief. And again, reminding yourself of a situation that reinforces it. And ask yourself, how does it feel in my body when I'm believing this? In my body and in my heart. When you're believing this, let's say you're believing you're deficient in some way or unlovable, will never have a partner or never be happy, whatever the belief is, how does it feel in your body when you're believing it? And feel your throat, your chest, your belly. And you might expand that question by saying, how has believing this affected my life? What does it deprive me of? How's it gotten in the way? What's the impact of this belief on my life, on the way I live, on the way I relate to others? And again, notice as you reflect on that, how it feels to be believing this belief. And let yourself acknowledge if there's suffering there, the pain of that. And let yourself acknowledge if there's sorrow. Sometimes there can be a soul sadness just for the landscape of our life, how our beliefs have caused suffering in our lives. Just have that honest acknowledgement, this is painful. And you might put your hand on your heart if you haven't already, and keep company with that. Keep company with whatever you're feeling. In these moments, just to honestly notice, what's it feel like right now? See if you can be intimate with the feelings, breathing into them, holding them with some tenderness. And to deepen that caring for the vulnerability inside you. You might offer a message of care, or just to feel the tenderness of the touch in your heart, and to sense offering care within. Maybe there's a simple message of trust your goodness. Or maybe, I'm not leaving, I'm staying, I'm here with you. Or it's okay. And if it's hard to offer care to yourself, you might call on another source to offer you care. A tree, or the waves, or the wind, or a dog, or a grandmother, or a friend, Buddha, Kuan Yin. Remember love. Let your intention be to let in love. Widening the attention, just noticing the presence that's here right now. Just notice whatever has shifted, the quality of presence that's here, the quality of tenderness. You might ask me, who am I if I'm not believing something's wrong with me? What would my life be like if I didn't believe anything was wrong with me? Again, just let go and open into whatever you notice. Sensing the possibility of being at home. This is a poem from my friend and poet Dana Falls. Why wait for your awakening? At the moment your eyes are open, seize the day. Would you hold back when the beloved beckons? Your eyes downcast, I'm not worthy, I'm afraid, and my motives aren't pure. Do you value your reasons for staying small more than the light shining through the open door? Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Now is the only time you have to be whole. Now is the soul moment that exists to live in the light of your true nature. Perfection is not a prerequisite for anything but pain. Please, oh please, don't continue to believe in your stories of separation and failure. This is the day of your awakening. Taking some breaths, and if your eyes are closed, coming back, opening your eyes. It's the daily practice of being with insecurity, of relaxing with groundlessness, that actually allows us to open to meet the death of our body with a fearless, relaxed, open awareness. And it's that capacity to relax, the change that actually allows us to cherish this life. We'll do a brief practice with this, and I invite you to explore more on your own. We'll use the presence that comes with rain, recognize, allow, investigate, nurture, to bring to a false refuge. So take a moment, if you will, to pause. And wherever you are, of course, if you're in a car, don't close your eyes, but wherever you are, let your attention go inward as appropriate. You might feel your breath and sense yourself in these moments, inviting yourself into presence. And as we did earlier, you might scan your life and sense a false refuge that arises in daily life that is driven in some way by insecurity or fear, not trauma. See if you can not bring the process to something that'll feel overwhelming. And you might choose what you identified in the last reflection. Some way that you're hooked on chasing after, grasping after something, running away, fighting. Some way you're trying to create ground in your life. And imagine a recent time, bring it to mind, that you were playing it out. Just bring yourself into the circumstances, where you were, what you were seeing, what you were doing, what you were thinking. Let yourself pause right in the midst of it, right when you're feeling the drive to, in some way, go get something, do something, avoid something, blame. And discontinue that activity. And the R of rain is recognized. Just recognize what are the primary feelings you're aware of. Feel into your body, sense what's most directly predominant. Let your intention be to allow, the A of rain's allow, to let that be there. Not trying to get rid of or change anything. And the I of rain, investigate, is getting more intimate with the experience. And you might sense, well, in these moments, what am I believing? Am I believing that I have to have something to feel better? That something's going to go wrong? That I'm going to fail? That I can't trust somebody? That somebody's let me down? That somebody doesn't care? What am I believing? And whatever you find there, go under the belief to what you're feeling in your body. Fear, insecurity, hurt, the not okay, vulnerable feeling in the body. Just find where that is, maybe your throat, your chest, your belly. And see if you can even let your face and your posture express that vulnerability. Feeling right into the center of it. You might even put your hand gently on your heart. It's a way of accompanying and inviting your attention even deeper. You can breathe with the feeling. So you're offering a full presence to feel it fully. Sense what it needs, what quality of heart it most needs. Maybe the feeling needs to feel held in compassion, or forgiveness, or love, to be seen fully. And from your wisest, most loving self, the nurturing, to offer what's needed, to feel the energy of love and presence coming right through your hand, right into where the fear or anxiety or vulnerability lives. You can feel it coming from your loving heart or from some vaster source. You can imagine the whole space around you as filled with the light, the luminosity, the warmth of love, just bathing, pouring into, filling the place of vulnerability. It's a deepening presence with. And letting yourself be the holder and the held. And sensing the quality of presence that's here right now. The wakefulness, the spaciousness, tenderness. Just sensing your own beingness, who you really are. That this space of awareness is more the truth of who you are than any self story. This is what you can trust in. This is what will carry you. Again, this inquiry from the Tibetan teachings. If everything changes, then what is really true? Is there something behind the appearances? Something boundless and infinitely spacious, innately loving, in which the dance of change and impermanence takes place? Is there something, in fact, that offers refuge beyond what we call death? In these last few moments, sensing what you most want to remember, what's important to you. Close your eyes and sense this as a pause. Reawaken your senses. Listening to the sounds that are here. Opening to the sensations in your body. Feeling the movement of the life breath, the inflow, the outflow. And from this place of presence, scanning your life and sensing where you might be habitually moving on your way to trouble, where you feel that you're in some way moving towards something you fear. It may be something to do with work, some fear of failure at work, or it may be that something that you're afraid of in a relationship with another person, something you're afraid you're going to miss out on. Where's the habit that feels like a trance of fear, where you get more contracted, or you lose contact with really what matters to you, with creativity, with open-heartedness? Sense where you get small, anxious, and just recognize in that particular situation what kind of thoughts go on in your mind. What do you worry about? What are you afraid is going to happen? What are you believing is wrong? Sensing the trance of fear, and to begin to unfurl this wing of mindful presence, you might inquire, well, what's it like? What does the fear feel like? What most wants attention? What most feels vulnerable? Let the attention drop, the awareness drop into the body, the throat, the chest, the belly. You're inviting that vulnerability to make its presence known. An interested and friendly attention, an intimate attention. You might note whatever you become aware of. Maybe a clenching in the chest, or tightness, or a pressure, squeezing in the throat, tightness in the belly. You might mentally whisper the words fear or shame. Or if it feels unpleasant, unpleasant. If it feels very strong and intense, you might sense making some space for what's here, letting it sit next to you, or sensing the world around you, so you remember a larger space. But stay in communication with the vulnerability. What does it most need? What's the flavor of care that it needs? Maybe forgiveness or acceptance, compassion, love. What would help this fearful place to heal? We awaken the wing of loving by in some way offering care to this vulnerability. For some, the most direct way is just to put a hand on the heart gently and sense that we do care, and sending that loving energy in. And you might experiment with that, just the touch being tender and light, and just offering, just saying, I care, I'm here, I'm not leaving. And if it helps to imagine someone who cares about you and loves you, just the atmosphere and sense of their love also flowing through your hands right into the vulnerability. And maybe you can feel the loving filling you, so that it's as if you're really dissolving your whole body and being in a loving way right into the place of vulnerability. Really giving love fully. For some, you might be imagining your high self or your future self. This very awake heart-mind, very tenderly bathing the fearful place with love. Sensing your own experience of your own being as you bring these wings of mindful presence and love to the vulnerability. Sensing that natural opening out of the vulnerable, scared self and into presence itself. Loving presence. You might widen the attention to sense many others with you right this moment, for those that are sitting here or those that are practicing at other times, listening to this. All of us together meeting fear with loving presence. Sensing who we are together when we're meeting fear with loving presence. Getting to know this fearless, boundless heart space that can include the waves of fear. Often on the spiritual path, the metaphor is climbing a mountain and transcending fear, but instead we're practicing going in and in and in. Rumi speaks of night travelers who turn towards the darkness and are willing to know their own fear. He says, sit with your friends, don't go back to sleep. Life's water flows from darkness. Search the darkness, don't run from it. Night travelers are full of light, and you are too. Don't leave this companionship. Whatever we practice, we'll get stronger. So if we keep on living out our survival brain habits of judgment, resentment, blame, othering, it just strengthens the circuitry of the limbic system. It locks us in. But if instead we have as a basic part of our practice attending and befriending, where we kind of call on that inner elder, our awakening heart. I sometimes think of it as our future self or that which we're evolving. When we learn to pause and deepen attention to vulnerability, to what's happening inside us, to where it's hurting, there's a shift. And we open up out of the survival brain trance and re-inhabit more wholeness. We'll close by looking at how we tend and befriend, starting with ourselves and then widening the circles a bit. So wherever you are, if you can, come into stillness. And if you can, in that stillness, let your attention go inward. Just invite yourself to be right here, right now. And you might take a few full breaths as a way to help collect your attention. Scanning your life, scanning what's been going on in the last days, and sense if there's any inner divide, any way that you're aware that you're in some way at war with yourself, judging yourself, unforgiving towards yourself. Noticing if there's ways that you've been acting that you are condemning, where you've created an inner bad other. And if there's a particular situation that evokes this sense, you might bring that to mind. So that you're bringing into awareness the stance of making yourself bad, making yourself wrong, creating that bad other inwardly. And consciously call on your inner wisdom, your awake heart, to come forward, like the wise old man, or what you might consider your inner bodhisattva, your evolved future self, high self, but call that forward. And sense that you can look through those eyes and feel with that heart as you really ask, well, what's most asking for attention? What's the vulnerability that's buried here? So whatever you're judging about yourself, just sense under it. If you're judging yourself for anger, if you're judging yourself for ways of acting greedy, just sense under it the fears, the hurts, the unmet needs. What needs tending and befriending? And take a moment to feel into your body and breathe with what's here. And with whatever you're finding, just sense that you can offer some gesture of care, of kindness. It might be a touch to the heart, your hand on your heart, some words of compassion. And you might widen the field and sense somebody in your life, friend, family, colleague, where you're feeling some separation, perhaps feeling judgment towards them or judged by them, but there's some reactivity. Perhaps in some way your survival brains are triggering each other. And again, let the situation that most brings us to your consciousness be there. And as you did just before, to invite forward your own awakening heart-mind. And first, attend to your own reactivity, where you're feeling angry or hurt, judgmental, fearful. So there's that inquiry, where does it hurt? And then an attentiveness to your body, your throat, your chest, your belly. You might put your hand on your heart. Tending and befriending, bringing mindfulness and kindfulness to whatever's here, whatever's inside you, whatever needs attention. In the sense that you can open your eyes in a sense and look out at the other now with more wisdom, more perspective, more care. With that same question, where does it hurt? Just like that old man said, tell me about it. That sounds difficult. Just imagine that you can really sense, well, where does it hurt for the other person? What might they be going through right now? Tending and befriending. Meeting in the middle. Deepening understanding and care. And finally, you might bring to mind our society and perhaps a group or members of a group where there's difference from you, difference in views or values, ways of being, where you know that it brings up judgment, bad othering. And again, calling on that inner bodhisattva, that kind and wise witnessing, that presence that can see more deeply, and just bringing the attention to your own reactivity, to feeling your own anger, judgment, whatever comes up. And really that question, where does it hurt? What's underneath it? Where's the vulnerability? Is there fear? A sense of out of control? Is there sadness or grief for the harm? Is there caring? Tending and befriending what's right here inside you. Reconnecting with your own heart and spirit. Shifting from the fight, flight, freeze reaction to this integrated awakeness that comes from tending and befriending. And you might imagine that you can bring to mind the other that's different and ask that same question, where does it hurt? And just listen. Be receptive, sense what this human, what energies in these humans might be difficult, what fears might be there. How others might feel unsafe, disconnected, hurting. Devalued, misunderstood. Just letting your heart include that and respond in whatever way feels natural. And letting go of whatever you've been reflecting on, just take a few full breaths and know that this is a life process of awakening our hearts, evolving our consciousness. And it can be a liberating one. It comes from the aspiration that we can learn to meet in the middle, that we can learn to reconnect and hold hands. Starts with tending and befriending our own hearts, and then opening as we can to include widening circles. So we close, friends, with our shared prayer that together we might bring more healing and peace and true belonging to our world. It's a powerful way to wake up from the selfing trance, to bring this curious attention, this interest in the nature of awareness, to realizing we're conscious and seeking the source of that consciousness. Just right now, realizing you're conscious. There's a consciousness, a sentience, and to seeking the source of that. The way Sri Nisargadatta talks about it, he says the I am, what we might call the essence, is usually hitched to feelings, emotions, activities, stories, and that we need to recognize and unhook it to see clearly into our essence. So a brief reflection to try to ground this a little. Take some moments to let your attention go inward. And just feel your curiosity, that you can bring curiosity and care to exploring the selfing trance. And you might notice the quality of self as I bring up different situations, whether there's a sense of solidity or centrality. First, think of a recent mistake, something you did wrong, some place that you felt like you fell short, in some way were not enough. And as you do, sense the I am that goes with that, perhaps a failing self in some way. Just how it feels in the body. Now switch to something you did well, something in work or relationship you felt good about. Again, sense the identity there, the identity of a successful self. Who are you in that situation? Sense being with somebody who makes you feel insecure. You feel maybe judged by them. Sense the I am, the who you are, as more of the self-conscious or insecure self. Just feel it, the felt sense of the I am, the self. And then someone around whom you feel superior. Even if you don't think you should be feeling superior, you just do. And what's the sense of self there? The I am. And when you're in a situation where you're busy, you're in a rush, you had a lot to get done, and sense the self, the doing self. And take a few full breaths. Just notice the different identities. It's interesting, we can have these different identities in different situations. They're all part of that cluster that feels so solid. Now here are some qualities of heart that naturally dissolve the selfing trance that you might explore. Take a situation recently where you felt either gratitude for something or someone, or it might have been a moment of awe or wonder at beauty, or perhaps some feelings of love for someone. Just pick a situation where there was that kind of heartfelt goodness, gratitude, awe, love. And you might either put your hand on your heart or put your palms together and whisper, thank you. If there's a person involved, you can include their name, and then whisper it again. And again. And now again, check and sense the I am, the sense of self. Who's experiencing this right now, this gratitude or beauty or love? What's the sense of your own being like right now? And some may notice that the I am, the sense of our being, has more of a quality of openness, more spaciousness, more wakefulness, more warmth. It's less solid, less contracted. This is the ocean. This is an expression of ocean to get familiar with. If your eyes are closed, feel free to open them. Or you can keep them closed as we continue, whichever works for you. There's a liberating power to investigating I am, the sense of who we are, tracing it back and recognizing the passing false identities. By false meaning they're temporary, they're passing. The wanting self, the insecure self, the superior, special self, and increasingly getting it. That's a wave, it's not the essence of who I am. There's a way that when we do, we just naturally release the grip and enlarge. Sri Nisargadatta has a way of describing that, what we enlarge into, the field, that personally I have gone back to again and again as profoundly resonant. Here's what he says. Love tells me I am everything. Wisdom tells me I am nothing. Between the two, my life flows. Perhaps as you hear these words, something resonates for you too. Maybe even without a lot of cognitive understanding, there's something your wisdom mind knows is true. The more that we touch into that truth, that we're living from it, the more in daily life it shows up. That when we're with others, if they're suffering, it feels like our suffering. We just know. It's not your suffering, it's our suffering. And when others have joy, humans, dogs, it's sympathetic joy. We feel it too. And when we're with the trees and the natural world, it's the same aliveness. It's not like a hierarchy where we're different and better. We're part of the same field of aliveness. And this belonging's precious. Sri Nisargadatta writes that when you look at anything as separate from you, you cannot love it, for you're afraid of it. When you know beyond all doubting that the same life flows through all that is, and you are that life, you will love all naturally and spontaneously. So I want to say again that the self-entrance is tenacious. Don't get discouraged. Really, what's called for, and this is true for all meditation, is relating to selfing, relating to the waves with kindness. Sri Nisargadatta calls it affectionate awareness. So that you're exploring, you're meditating out of a love for love and a love for truth, out of a curiosity of what's beyond this appearance of a small self. So we'll do one more practice of self-inquiry and invite you to, again, bring your interest and gentle attention inward. And you might close your eyes. And let the attention go to the senses. Be aware of listening, hearing the sounds that are here. Let them wash through you. Be aware of the aliveness in the body, the sensations. Feeling your face, letting it soften, feeling the sensations there. Your hands softening, sensations. Loosening the belly. Feeling the breath deep in the torso. And being aware of the felt sense in the heart area. Senses wide open. And now inquire, who is this happening to? Who's listening and feeling right now? And see if you can find the sense of a self that's listening and feeling, that sense of an I am, that in some way is the place where you locate the sense of self. Just notice, is there a sense of a self behind the eyes maybe, or for some it's kind of located in the throat-heart area? Where is this self located? Is there an image, a sense of a seated form? Just feel the self where it's localized from inside. And now, sense what is witnessing this self. Where's the witness? Is there a vague sense of a witnessing from outside of you, maybe in front of you, looking down at you, or is the witness behind you? You might listen to these words. As you watch your mind, you discover yourself as the watcher, the witness. When you stand motionless, only watching, you discover yourself as the light behind the watcher or the witness. That source alone is. Go back to that source and abide there. The light behind the witness. Can you sense the light, the awareness that's interior, as if you're feeling the sensations in your heart, but feeling the interior space of awareness that's aware of those feelings? And you feel how that awareness pervades your body through everywhere, that everything is felt by awareness, inside you, through you, and everywhere around you. Listening to the sounds and sensing the awareness that extends boundlessly. Relax and be that awareness, that all-pervading awareness. The light behind the witness. Love tells me I'm everything. Wisdom tells me I'm nothing. Between the two, my life flow. So the Buddha's probably the kind of core teaching is that we suffer because we forget who we really are. We forget really the essence, the awareness and the love that's here, and we become kind of caught in an identity that's less than who we are. I love the description of our life, our sickness, our dis-ease and sickness being homesickness, that we don't feel at home. How do we come to this place where we believe in a not okay self and we're not at home in ourselves? And a hint is from the poet, now deceased, John O'Donohue, poet and philosopher and mystic. And he says, we're so busy managing our life so as to cover over this great mystery that we're involved in. We're so busy managing, controlling things, trying to avoid failure, trying to be the person we should be, staying busy, that we cover over the mystery, the beauty and the goodness of this life. And we don't see who we are. We don't see others. You know, one of the stories I've always loved took place in Asia. This huge statue of the Buddha for many years. It survived through the centuries, actually. It was not a handsome statue. It was a kind of plaster clay statue. And but people loved it for its staying power. And then one year, this happened about 12 years ago, there was a really long dry period, and a crack appeared in the statue. And so the monks brought their little pen flashlights to look inside the crack, thought they might find out something about the infrastructure. And what happened was when they shined the light in, what shined out was a flash of gold. And every crack they looked into, they saw that same shining. So they dismantled the plaster clay, which turned out to be just a covering, and found it was the largest pure solid gold statue of the Buddha in all of Southeast Asia. And the monks believed that the statue had been covered with plaster and clay to protect it through difficult years, much in the same way that we put on that spacesuit to protect ourselves from injury and hurt. And that what's sad is that we forget the gold and we start believing we're the covering. We believe we're the egoic, defensive, managing self, and we forget who's here. So really, you might think of kind of the essence of the spiritual path is a remembering, reconnecting with that, with the gold, and with that essential mystery of awareness that's our essence, reconnecting.